Good afternoon, everybody. This is Phil Resch talking, and basically, what we want to do today is continue what we started actually a few months ago. With the extensive travel over the summer, it was very difficult to try and get the extra trainings in. But back at it today, we're gonna continue where we left off before. We were talking about doing term insurance, how to illustrate term insurance. And today we're going to talk about more of the lucrative opportunity being the IUL chassis and platform. What I'll do first here is I will bring up screen here, and here we go. So what you'll see here is the 3Mark website. And so a majority of the carriers that you're going to be running your business through will be off this website. Once again, we use 3Mark as our back office. They hold all our contracts as well as the case management, LNC, all that stuff. So unless you have a direct contract with AIG, we would go directly to AIG, and I can talk about that on a separate meeting. But majority of the carriers are going to be found here, and you should be able to log in by putting your username and password in and clicking on login. And what this will do is this will open up the total website. So everything that you need is right here on the website, including all the carriers that we have. Here you'll see term and UL quotes, so the GUL, which we typically don't see sold anymore. However, term, if you want to do a spreadsheet, what we talked about last time was in that area. But today we're going to talk about permanent insurance. We're going to talk about two different kinds of permanent insurance. One is the accumulation side that we use when we talk about cash growth, using it for tax-free retirement solutions. And then the other is death benefit focus. Now, a lot of people seem to forget about the death benefit focus side, which is kind of ironic because it is a death benefit product. But when we think about the type of clientele that we're working with in both the accumulation side and the death benefit focus side, they really serve two different objectives. And we'll talk about those as we go through the process. Now, once again, you logged in under your username and password. It opened up the entire system for you. And what I would say is right here with quotes, you're going to go down to WinFlex Web and click on that. And what it'll do is it will open up WinFlex Web for you. It'll actually sign you in behind the scenes. What I'm going to do though is I've been using WinFlex Web for a while, so I actually have a separate login for that. I'm going to use that instead because I have a few extra carriers on mine. But this is what it'll look like when you pop into the system. If you don't have certain carriers, for example, sake, you got appointed with National Life Group or you got appointed with Columbus and you don't see them in the illustration section here, what you would want to do is go all the way up to the top right-hand corner where you see your name and just highlight over it and click on Profile. When you go into Profile, under the second tab here, you'll see Add Companies. And you'll see all these different companies here that you may or may not have. If it is a company that you have and you just don't have them in your instance of WinFlex, you check the box of that appropriate carrier, you put in your agent code, whatever it may be, and hit place request. It allowed me to place the request for Bright House anyway, simply because you see this little line here where it has this arrow that means the code is mandatory. If it is not mandatory, you don't even need to enter the agent code, but it's always good because the carrier can still reject you. Like I'll probably get a rejection from Bright House in that scenario. So let's go back here. So WinFlex, we have our illustration tab. The two biggest ones you'll probably use is illustrations and client manager. Client manager would be cases that you saved that you have to come back to or want to come back to, whether the client's risk class changed and you have to revise the illustration, or you've talked to a client, now they want to modify it and change it up. That's where you would do it under the client manager section, as long as you saved your client's information. So if we go into illustrations here, and what will happen is it'll pull up an empty canvas. Once again, you can get to your clients at this section too with managed cases. I'm going to hit start a new case, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I know sometimes on Zoom, you might not be able to see it too well. And what you'll see is I have a whole slew of carriers. Once again, if you're missing a carrier and you have them, go to the top right-hand corner, go to profile and add the company. But once again, I got a whole slew of carriers here at my fingertips. It doesn't mean that I'm going to use every single carrier. But what we like to do is we like to say that we have a wide array of carriers. And the objective or the benefit is that we have the opportunity to provide our clients with the appropriate solution without any type of bias, so to speak, because of a limited carrier portfolio. So in this scenario, let's say, for example's sake, if you're thinking about an accumulation sale. Now, the big thing when you talk about accumulation sales is how are you going to approach the client? So when we look at an accumulation sale, what we're looking for is not death benefit. We're looking for how much they are looking to spend on a monthly or annual basis. Why is that? We're trying to find the least amount of death benefit possible. So they have the least amount of cost of insurance so their asset can grow and they can get income. The big thing when you talk to these clients, and the one thing I want everyone to be aware of, is this is not a replacement for aggressive stocks. Okay. A lot of times people will misappropriate these type of solutions as something that is aggressive because it has the S&P 500. These are designed to not be that aggressive, but you can get an average of 7 to 10% over a long period of time. So once again, thinking about this is a long play, not a short-term solution. Because when you see, and I'll show you on the income side, it takes time to foster and grow these. So when you're talking to a client, a typical thing you need to find out is date of birth. You need to find out risk class, and that's where we have to figure out like any medications, any hospitalizations, any type of medical concerns. And that's when we do our field underwriting to see exactly how this client equals out and how we're going to illustrate them. Too many times have I had the situation where someone has an A1C for diabetes at like 7.2 and someone illustrates them at preferred plus. They're not going to get preferred plus anywhere in the industry. So when someone has an ailment or issue, that's where you can come to me. And the same questions I'll ask is, when diagnosed, I'll say diagnosed, that's how they use it in the insurance world. When diagnosed, medications taken, any hospitalizations again. So it goes back to the same questions. Once again, with this, we also want to find out how much they want to invest on an annual or monthly basis. There is quarterly and semi-annual as well, but those are more expensive than the other two. And most people will pick annual or monthly. And for how long? Okay, so depending on how old your client is, they might not have a longer horizon to invest. So I'm 41. My horizon to invest is roughly 24 years if I want to go to the 65 retirement age, 26 years if I wanted to make it all the way out to 67, which is the new retirement. But there are other people who may be younger who want to fund for 10 or 15 years and then just let it roll. So once again, understanding the lingo and talking to the client is very important, especially with accumulation sales, because there's a lot that can be left up to the imagination. And so if we say to our client, what is the amount that you could invest for at least 10 years comfortably? They might say $40,000. You might say, okay, well, let's do it at $20,000, but we can also pad it so you can put 40,000 in or 30,000 and add 40,000 if you want to at other points, because you don't want them to feel overstressed and then cancel the policy early, because that would hurt the portfolio, that would hurt their opportunity. And there's surrender charges that are built into these products for 10 to 15 years. So we want to make sure that our clients are comfortable, once again, for a long play, not a short-term solution. So let's take, for example's sake, I'm going to start out with AIG because, once again, they have a great value proposition on living benefits. So it gives you a nice hybrid combo of some opportunity. And the Max Accumulator 3 product is the one we're going to use. You'll see here protector, protection focused, accumulator, accumulation focused. So it's really built into the names exactly what they're designed to do. And you'll see that with every other carrier too, is they'll usually have a protection product and an accumulation product, and it should be pretty blatant as to which one is which. Some you might not, but we can always get through that. So let's say, for example's sake, it's Phil Resch, and we're going to rewind time just a little bit, and we'll say I'm 40. When you talk about accumulation sales, they're usually, if someone is making high wages in their 20s, we're talking six figures, all the way up to about 55. This could be a great solution. Now, the older you get, the less time horizon you have for your money to accumulate, so you got to put more into it too. So, younger you are, you have a longer time horizon for compounding, so you can put less in. But let's say I'm 40-year-old Phil Resch, and I'm going to do standard non-tobacco, and I am a Tennessee resident. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look for the solve for. Now, most carriers leave this open for interpretation. Some carriers used to have it, like AIG used to have it on this income solve feature, which basically did everything for you. Now, when you're modifying these illustrations, I don't like doing that. They call it like guardrails. So I like to actually look at, let's say, for example's sake, I want to invest $10,000 a year for 20 years. Okay. So what I would do is I'm looking for the face amount because I know the premium. So I'm going to do solve for face amount, and I'm going to do minimum face, no MEC, because I want the least amount of death benefit possible for my premium of $10,000 a year. And I'm going to click on this calendar, which will open up the opportunity for me to double click here and change it to just 20 years. Now it builds out the rest of the calendar for me. I'm just going to double click here and do 0. So I'm only funding for 20 years. And you'll see I can do it by age or I can do it by years. But if you'll notice 40 to 59, when you'll see the illustration, year one will say 41 and it will stop at year 60. So it's just the way they do it on the illustration. Some carriers are different too. Index strategies, just a word to the wise. A lot of times the carriers will automatically set it up with the one that makes them look the prettiest. So AIG is no different. They're putting 100% in this MLSB, or Merrill Lynch Strategic Balance. I like to diversify the asset because there's no better thing to do than diversify the approach. When you average it out between 642, 617, and 697, it's about 6.5-ish, somewhere around there. So it's not too aggressive. Now, once again, we're looking for disbursements. So we're looking for income. What type of income can I get? So I'm going to use the disbursements tab, check the box, and it opens up this opportunity for me to, once again, interpret. So that's why I like to say all the time that you're the architect of the design for your client. For them to see the initial design doesn't mean it's the last design that they're going to use. They could go through and modify plenty of times, and that's why we're here, is to help them figure out what makes sense for them. But if I want to do my average retirement, let's say, for example's sake, I clicked on the age now because I want to understand what age I'm going to retire at, and it's too hard for me to calculate in my head how many years that's going to be. But let's just say I want to retire at 67. So I'm going to stop. I'm not going to take any disbursements from 40 to 66. And I just double clicked on the side here, or clicked on the side, and it opens up this next level. So 67, and I want to stop taking income around age 80. Let's just say 89, in case modern medicine performs miracles and I make it all the way to 90. And I'm going to click on this drop down and hit solve for max. And that's it. Or at least for this tab, I should say. The last thing I'll say is policy options. You have death benefit option. It shows increasing the whole time. You do not want to do that. Why? Because the ability to do increasing allows you to stuff more money into a lesser of a policy, but as it grows, the cost of insurance doesn't change. So that net amount at risk for the carrier never changes. But now what happens is that if you change it, say to level, once you stop funding, it will reduce the cost of insurance, and therefore your client will have more income when they're taking money out. If you kept it at increasing, your policy is trying to go up as you're pulling money out, and it's counterbalancing each other or counterintuitive. So if we do this, and once again, I go solve for, I did 20 years. So for policy options here, I'm going to click on the calendar, do 20 years, and then I want to levelize it after I'm done taking income. Now, in this scenario, keep in mind, you as a financial professional, the main reason why you talk to your clients every single year is because every single year something could change. In 20 years from now, that client will not remember to switch from increasing to level. That is a job for you as a financial producer. Okay, so the start of the policy is the start of your relationship with that client. And if you take care of them, obviously that'll lead to referrals. But we're not going to change anything here. Income is annual, 10,000 annual. And what I'm going to do here is, I know I did this right, but what I'll do is I'll hit calculate now. And AIG's been taking a hot second to run illustrations. So there is a question here. Someone asked, is it true that client can only change investment strategy only during their anniversaries, or is that for annuities only? The answer is it's not an anniversary, but it's a time of maturity. So what I'll say is that, for example's sake, AIG, if I did monthly, I'm putting 12 data points into the system. And so halfway through the year, if I want to change from my allocations to something different, I can do that for future allocations. But you can't modify the new one until that bucket is done or that 12-month cycle is done. So technically, it's on an anniversary if you do annual. The other thing is there are other carriers like Allianz where if you do monthly, they'll put the first bucket in, and then the other 11 months stays in a fixed account and then gets swept into next year for that anniversary. So for them, you can only do it at the anniversary. So here you'll see that AIG is giving me a real funky number, $176,000, 179 for the 10,000 for 20 years. Okay, so once again, it is buying me the least amount of insurance to give me the most amount of income. So if I open up the system here and I'm going to basically cross-check a few things, okay? So we'll look first here at the descriptor page. And once again, I put in 10,000, that's my plan premium. And if you'll see here, the guideline level premium, you technically can't go higher than the guideline level premium. Okay, there are some times where you can do the 7 pay amount, but if I did the 7 pay amount by year 5, it's going to drop it down to 8,000 or 6,000. I might not even be able to fund for a year. So I like to keep it at the guideline level as the indicator of the maximum amount you can put in. And 10,000 buys me a real funky number because once again, we're keeping the cost down. But if I scroll down here and I see how it works, now this is a great conversation piece. And I've had this talking to some clients, is they're going to look at the far left because it's right next to the funding column. So a couple tidbits for you guys in the industry I'll share with you because once again, 16 years, why should I not share what I've learned? but you'll see this guaranteed charges. Now, guaranteed charges means that the insurance company has the right to take their current charges and stretch them all the way to guaranteed. No insurance company has done that. I should say no major insurance company has ever done that, even in 2008, when all the stuff hit the fan, even when AIG, now Corebridge, needed a bailout. They were not the only insurance company to have a bailout, but they did not even go to max charges then. So to start day one with guaranteed charges and having a 0% return, now keep in mind, in the history of the stock market, we have gone a maximum of 3 years with a negative return in a row. This is saying for the entire duration of the contract. So starting year one, worst charges possible and 0% return. Well, the fact that we have 30 plus carriers at our fingertips tells me that if this carrier was doing this, I would not put you, Mr. and Mrs. Client, in this option right off the bat. So to give them that confidence, what we look at is a very conservative rate of return over here, about 6.5%. And it's diversified, so you have different opportunities. And then if you'll see here, my funding goes for 20 years, as I specified, or a total of a $200,000 investment. Now, by age 60, I've put 200 grand in. I have a profit of about $145,000. My death benefit has risen all the way to $521,000. And then if I start taking out income, I'm going to get 52,634 tax-free dollars for 25 years. So if you want to look at numbers, you tell clients at a $200,000 investment, I was able to pull out 52,634 by 25 years. That's $1.3 million of tax-free income off a $200,000 investment. That's not a bad day. And oh, by the way, if something happens along the way, you have living benefits, all of the death benefit to accelerate if you need to. So you have a double win here for the client. It protects them while they're working and then gives them tax-free retirement at time of retirement. So that's how you would run it the basic way. Now, what I often tell people too is that if you think about it at 40, your peak earning years are your late 40s, early 50s. So if I were to find the floor, what 10,000 would provide is 176,000. If I use this little handy dandy spot here that says copy, and I change nothing but this to no solve, I'm going to double click here and I'm going to add, let's just say I'm going to put it at 300,000. Now, what I call this is a buffered strategy. Why? Because I'm going to give myself room as I improve, as I make more income. I'm going to add some insurance costs in to give me room to add more money in without having to go through underwriting again. Because in the other example, I was at $10,000. That's the max I can put in for the entire duration of the contract per year. So if I hit a bonus, if I, get something that allows me to put more money into it, I don't have the room. Now here, I did the same 10,000 for 20 years, 300,000. So I almost doubled it. That can be a little egregious, but let's take a look at the numbers and see. We had 52,634 again for 25 years for the same premium. However, we'll look here and you'll see that I can now put in not 10,000, but 16,892. So let's say I still did 10,000 only for 5 years, or let's say, yeah, 5 years sounds good enough. So I've missed out on 6,892 per year for 5 years. Well, I can take all 5 years, times it by six, it's over $30,000, closer to 35,000, and stuff it all in at one time, and then continue at 16,982, 892 after that. So I can pick up what I missed and put it in at any point in time and still stay within the guideline level premium amount. So it just gives you more of a tally. But If I did nothing, the do nothing approach, still 200,000 investment. Instead of 345, I'm at 324. But I'm getting pretty much almost the same income, 49,631. I've lost about $3,000 or yeah, $3,000 a year. 500 bucks a month. No, 250 bucks a month. So when you think about it, the cost evaluation or cost analysis is not that different. But what you're doing is you're giving the client a bigger death benefit, more living benefits, more room to grow, and pretty much the same income at a 6.5% rate of return. So that's the kind of stuff that, as again, you want to massage the policy, you want to explain this all to the client because, when you look at this, you also want to competitor proof your practice. Because if I showed a client only this, and then they came to someone like me and said, "Yeah, I'm putting 10,000 in for 20 years," I would say, "This guy screwed you. He told you to put in a higher death benefit for more commission." Because the higher the face amount, the higher the commission. So you have to explain logically and show both examples as to why you would want to do that. So you cover your own, what, and protect yourself against things like litigation or chargebacks. So it's very important that you explain all this, be a teacher, be an educator to these type of clients, so you don't have to worry about someone, coming in behind you. But let's take an example here, and I want to share with you how we would do it in the multi-carrier environment. You can always lean on me. That's what I'm here for. But if you are, running illustrations at midnight, you're dialing Phil and he's asleep, stuff like that, then obviously, I want to make sure that I can help out any way that I can. So I want to train you guys on this. So if you want to run multi-carrier, all you do is simply hit the copy button here, and I've got myself here. Now all I want to do is go to change products. And so for grins, let's just pick a couple other carriers. Allianz is always a popular one for income. I'll hit update client. So we're going to fix all errors. There wasn't really much to fix, but I want to check all the rows and columns before I move on to add maybe another one or two carriers. So we'll do solve for minimum face, 10,000. That's a total of 20 years, so it's the same. Disbursements, same thing, 67 to 89. Oh, sorry, it was 23 years, not 25, so apologies. Then you have increasing level. I just clicked on it and it changed slightly, so not a huge issue or change. Index accounts, they already diversify them, but also keep in mind, they're illustrating at 6.71. So when you talk to your clients as well, if you want to diversify it, fantastic. But also understand that some carriers do illustrate a lot higher than others. All right, now I just hit copy again, and I'm going to change the product. Let's do this with, I don't know, let's go with John Hancock. Now you'll see they have a slew of carriers. Protection, VUL, protection IUL, accumulation 23. So you'll see accumulation 21 reprice. You usually take the one that's most recent. Okay. So 23, update client. We'll probably have a couple errors. Yep. So we're going to hit fix all errors. Standard non-tobacco. Solve for face amount. Now, Hancock has this funky thing called Vitality. I usually don't check it. Why? Because I don't want to have to wear a Fitbit the rest of my life and exercise to keep my gold status. So I want the offer to be the offer. So with Hancock, I usually uncheck the Vitality. You have minimum death benefit option or minimum non-mech death benefit. So that's the one you want to go with. Once again, 20 years. Here, where it says target cash value in Dow at lifetime, I want it to be $1,000 because I want more money going in my pocket than I do to have my policy's cash value equal whatever the death benefit is by 121. This is all the same. All the same. Target cash value, once again, $1,000 to endow. Assume rate. They don't diversify. They put it all in one, but for sake of time, I'm just going to leave it there. Options. you'll see increasing, and they say change it at lifetime. You want to change it at optimal year, or you want to change it at year 20. And that would be how you do John Hancock. Okay. And then last but not least, I'll throw in one more carrier. Let's throw in Symetra just for grins. And we'll see how they all stack up. The accumulator, Ascent IUL, not the accumulator VUL. So once again, just see some of the terminology and not the protector. We hit update client. Voila, index accounts. I'll leave it there for sake of time. We want the minimum non-MEC, 10,000. Disbursements, age, it's the same. And we're going to do increasing for 20 years. So once again, you have to do some modifications to make sure that you do all the same. Now, all I do here now is hit select all, because you see these gears, that means I haven't finished these yet. Now, if I hit calculate over here, it'll just calculate Symetra. But if I select all and over here I hit calculate, it'll calculate all three at the same time. So I've had some people ask me, like, Phil, I want to get 250, 500, 750, and a million. And so I'll say, okay. And then what I'll do is I'll just take this and I'll copy over and over again, and I run them all at one time. So it simplifies your job and allows you to run multi-carrier very quickly and very efficiently. Now, if some carrier was slightly off, like say Allianz is like 375,000, it means I probably did something wrong, because a lot of the carriers have a very close number. And I'll click on here just to proof it and say, we'll go to the illustration slowly but surely. There we go. That was weird. All right, so 10,000 for 20 years. We take income at 67, and you're looking at 62,000. So very competitive. Actually, AIG at a lower rate of return actually has a higher accumulation and more living benefits. Then let's look at Hancock. Hancock will probably be the lowest. Let me go down to their money page, which is like 20 pages down. All right, so this is the guaranteed charges. So once again, make sure you're reading the right column. Here is the still guaranteed charges. Now here is the non-guaranteed, and you'll see they're at 35,000. So I either did something wrong or they're just not that good with the accumulation product. And last but not least, Symetra. I think they'll be the ones that give AIG the most grief here. Grief meaning competition. Nope, even them, 53,460. So as you can see, competitive carriers, competitive products, but this is what helps you sell your story. So that's the big thing, is having objectivity, the ability to provide multiple carriers. Now that's your accumulation products. Let's just go real quick and talk about the other side of the coin. And we're going to talk about the death benefit focused products. Okay. So what are we looking for in a protection sale is, once again, in this scenario, it's not how much, it's what's the death benefit. Because when you think of how much, we're talking about how much are they looking to invest. We care more about the death benefit. So Mr. and Mrs. Client, you have a number. That number is, $500,000. We need to solve for premium and see what can fit in their budget. Perm, term, combo of both, and then go from there. Now, some of the cool features that you usually see in protection sales, long-term care or chronic illness riders. Yes, some carriers have built-in living benefits, but you can also get pay-for riders, which, one, for you as a producer, gives you a little bump in commission because they are usually something that's commissionable. But more importantly, we have a big concern on our hands in the rise of long-term care concerns. And this is the ability to lock in a premium for a guaranteed fixed amount that you can get over time to help protect against long-term care. And if you don't use it, you don't lose it like traditional long-term care. you have a death benefit at the end. So usually when you talk protection sales, this is a nice couple to add into it to give it that extra flair. Same thing here when you talk about running an illustration, date of birth, risk class, and that once again falls on you as a producer to figure out any medications, hospitalizations. An easy way that I do this with clients is I say on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being your foot in the grave, 1 foot in the grave, 10 being you're about to run a marathon, you got a body of an Olympian. How would you rate yourself? I'm a 7. Well, why are you a 7? Well, I've got medication, this and that. And now you're doing your risk analysis in your head because they're giving you all the stuff that you need to basically take care of them. So you're getting the diagnosis, what medications, how much the medication, and we can show you on the next one how to do field underwriting at an advanced level with several carriers. And then lastly, you want to know how long do you want to fund for? And how long do you want the death benefit to last? So, how long funding, I should say. So, these are the kind of questions that you need for this type of solution. Reason why I say that is I've had clients tell me, they're like, well, I'm not going to live past 90. So, if you want to put it to 95, that's fine. Others will say, I'm going to live forever. I have longevity. I want to go to 121. And so, you can once again dictate and fit a premium in based on what the client's looking for. So, to keep it simple, I will show you the Value Plus Protector from AIG. Hit Create Client. And so we'll go with good old Phil Resch, but now he's 50. This type of solution is between 40 to about 70. We can go up to 80, 90 with even one carrier, but the leverage is a lot smaller the higher you go. That's why it's important to act today. So let's just say standard non-tobacco, Tennessee resident, 50-year-old Phil Resch, and I want $1 million, but I'm going to solve for premium here because I want this $1 million. So you have a bunch of different options here. The easiest one to do is solve. It'll do all the work for you. $1 million face. I can pay my entire life. I can pay for, say, 20 years. And you'll see this cash value goal is $1,000 at age 121. So that means the policy should last with the rate of return to 121. I don't think I'm going to make it that far. So let's just say I want to say to 105. So you can modify it. That'll cheapen the cost. And so I'm going to pay for 20 years because when I retire, I want to retire from my life insurance premiums as well. The index strategy here, I'm fine with it being 100% MOSB because it's a more conservative index account. Disbursements, we're not doing disbursements on this. This is typically a level death benefit. It's very simple and easy for this type of product. And if you want riders, for example, sake, the AAS, which is that long-term care rider, if I do this, I have a dollar for dollar reduction at 2% per month. So that is $20,000 or whatever the IRS per diem is at the time in which I take it. So if it's less than 20,000, then I get that number. If the per diem is higher than 20,000, I get 20,000 per month. So that's pretty much it for this. You typically don't do increasing for death benefit focused products. You can in some scenarios, but we're not going to get into the off scenarios here. I will show you just several carriers at one time. So I'm going to change the product and I'm going to go with John Hancock once again, and we'll do the protection IUL, and I'm going to hit update client. Now, John Hancock does not have a chronic illness rider. They have a long-term care rider. I'm going to get rid of this permanent percentage, this flat extra. It adds those on. Maybe that's why Hancock was so expensive on the other one, or didn't give as much income on the other one. Because sometimes when you carry properties over, it brings something else in. So we're solving for premium. I don't like the Vitality Plus, personal opinion. $1 million solve, but you'll see here, I'm doing it forever and I'm going to have it till lifetime. So I have to modify and do year, do 20, and then do 0, and I'm done. Then target cash value, we're going to do it at age 105 and uncheck this LifeTrack billing. I'm giving you the quick and easy with them, because if I did it to 105 and kept this on, it'd give me an error saying they can't do LifeTrack billing to 105. So I'm just giving you some extras up front. Level death benefit, annual premium, policy riders. Check the box here. Long-term care rider. And we're going to do 2% and 100% acceleration. So chronic illness rider, long-term care rider gives you 20,000 per month, or whatever the IRS per diem is, gives you 20,000 per month, or whatever your reimbursement receipt is. So if you only spent $10,000, they're only going to give you $10,000 that month. So it's a different animal. It's called a reimbursement versus indemnity. So we'll add one more, and I'll do Symetra once again. They have a chronic illness rider, and you'll see it as the Protector IUL. Hit update client, hit fix all errors because there's no 1035 exchange. Standard index 597, and I'm only doing it for 20 years, $1 million annual, goal year, age 105. So once again, slight modifications anytime you bring one down from the other. Policy options, everything is fine there. Policy riders, I'm going to add the, oh, they don't have the, maybe it's here. They have a long-term care rider type rider. I'm not seeing it on here, so give me 1 second. See if that's it. Nope, I'm gonna take them off just because I want to make it a fair shot. So let's switch it up and we'll do Prudential. Prudential has the Founders Plus. That's their protection product. And if we go in here, we'll go to, oops, now we'll go here. So birthday 50, non-smoker, solve for, and we're doing solve for premium all years. No, we're going to do it for 20 years. We're going to have age 105. Accounts, disbursements, we'll keep these status quo. Annual, and we want to uncheck this prevent lapse. So Prudential does that. They want to make sure that the policy stays in force. So you have to force it to prevent the lapse. And then they have this benefit access rider. Basically, the AAS from AIG is the same thing Prudential has. So it's a chronic illness rider. So I'll hit calculate here and let's see what we got. And we'll, once again, the focus here is death benefit. So these products are typically cheaper in cost of insurance versus your accumulation products, but they don't accumulate cash like the other ones do. They have lower par and cap rates. They just don't perform the way you want them to. So even though they are cheaper, it's not going to be the function you're looking for in regards to building up cash. The other thing too is, as a producer, the accumulation products usually have a higher target because they're higher cost, so it's more lucrative for the insurance company. So now you'll see here, John Hancock has the cheapest price, 14,746, and then AIG is about, 300, 500 bucks more per year, and then you have Prudential, which is just a lot more. So in this scenario, a lot of times price wins, but when you're talking about death benefit focus, there's a big focus on underwriting too. For example's sake, what would be right for me might not be right for you guys. You might have a healthier option, like a Hancock or AIG Value Plus Protector. Because of weight, would probably have to go with Prudential because, again, underwriting is an art and not a science. So what's right for me is not right for you. It could be right for someone else. And so that's why next week we'll kind of shift the focus more on the underwriting side, field underwriting. But this is really how you would do multi-carrier, how you'd run your illustrations, the type of ways that you would run the illustrations, and ultimately provide value for your client. In this scenario, if they see that you've run several carriers, It's great. I often say that I'll show them too. I run 30, but I'll show them too, because the more options you give them, the more they're going to think about it as well. So there's a fine dance. So with that being said, what I'll do now is I'll stop the recording. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we can, either run some more illustrations or just leave it be. So with that.